Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
Naruto dropped his paintbrush into the bucket with an annoyed sigh. "I really hate chores," he stated to his teammates behind him. Kiba grunted as he started to peel off dried paint that more or less covered him, and Akamaru yipped in response from his position on top Kiba's head. Hinata nodded silently as she made sure that she hadn't got any paint on her. "Just 10 more until you get a C rank," Kakashi said from his comfortable spot on a picnic table while reading his book. It had been almost a week since Team 7 had been formed and started taking the ninja world by storm. In the past week they had accomplished over 15 D ranks. They did 2 a day, sometimes 3, so they were ahead of their fellow graduates who only had around 4 or 5 done. Kakashi had decided that teamwork exercises wouldn't be necessary for the Green Genin. The teamwork between Hinata and Naruto was almost flawless. The only real problem they had with it was when Kiba challenged Naruto for the right to lead the fellow Genin. Kakashi was still the leader, of course, but every team typically had a Genin that acted as a leader for his fellow squad mates in trivial tasks or when their Jounin instructor was indisposed. Naruto had ignored the challenges, but Kiba wouldn't press the issue because he thought Hinata would get mad at him for beating up her friend. Kiba still struggled for the position of team leader, but he didn't let it get to him while on missions, so their teamwork was stable. It could be improved, of course, but the best way to deepen their bond was through overcoming challenges together. Which is why Kakashi was blowing through to the minimum amount of 25 D-ranked missions so his team could start applying for a C-ranked missions. The 3 of them were miles ahead of their fellow graduates already, and the distance was only furthering as Kakashi would turn the meaningless chores into training situations. Today's simulation was dodging enemy kunais, which were actually thin paint brushes dipped in paint, while they were focusing on the task of painting a civilian's fence. Kiba, as mentioned before, was hit a few times but was still passable. Hinata had turned out to be spotless due to her Kekei Genkai, and Naruto only had one spot on his forearm where he had shoved Kiba to avoid a paintbrush hitting Akamaru. Akamaru now viewed Naruto as one of his favorite people. "Why do we have to do these lame mock missions, Kakashi-sensei? Everyone knows that we're too badass for 'em." Kiba whined, Akamaru barking his support for his master. "Because we're very fresh Genin, Kibbles. Would some princess really trust us to protect her if we've only been Genin for less than a week?" Naruto answered wisely as he took a seat at the picnic table. Kiba grumbled about the unfairness of it all but didn't argue because he knew Naruto had a point. He had long gotten used to Naruto's nickname for him. He just prayed to Kami that neither his sister or mother ever go word of it. The only way to alleviate that level of embarrassment would be to commit seppuku. Hinata giggled before sitting down as well along with Kiba. They were waiting for their client to bring their pay for a job well done. "So what are we doing after this, sensei? Training or another lousy D rank?" Kiba asked as he sat down. "I have a bit of a treat for you 3 today. We're having a group sparring match with the other rookie Genin," Kakashi informed. It had been the day after the true Genin test that it had been decided that they would pit their cute Genin against each other. Flashback. Kakashi, Kurinai and Asuma all stood in the Hokage's office since their teams were the only ones that passed. The Hokage repressed a sigh at the fact only 3 teams had passed this year. He was seriously considering strapping a few Jounin and special Jounin with reserve Genin to simply bolster Konoha's numbers. Their numbers had taken a major blow 13 years ago by the Kyuubi attack, and since then their intake of shinobi had dwindled further by failed graduates and work deaths. Is it a problem with the academy? Are they not preparing the next generation well enough? Hiruzen silently asked himself, unknowingly hitting the nail right on the head. However, he shelved his thoughts aside and focused on the meeting he was currently in. "Asuma, begin your report," he commanded. Asuma nodded. "My 3 passed easily enough. Their goal was to pin me down long enough to draw blood, and they succeeded at the 2-hour mark. Ino is the definite leader of the 3. She's loud, brash, and a fangirl," he said with a sigh. It was going to take a lot of work to break her out of that mentality. Although, she can focus on the task before her when needed. Her skills are decent enough, I guess. She's moderate at stealth, her accuracy is moderate, and her jutsu are limited to her mind transfer jutsu. Choji is quiet, nice, and sensitive. He's a follower and does pretty much what the other two tell him to do. If I'm being honest, he's not cut out for the shinobi life. They would have had me at the hour mark, but Choji had refused to strike me. He said he didn't like hurting others. That's a major problem in our line of work. His skills are moderate from the academy reports. I can't verify them because Choji wasn't used for stealth. He can use one of his clan jutsus but can expand his body at will. Shikamaru is lazy, unenergetic but brilliant. Like Choji, he's a follower but he can take the lead when needed. He's a strategist and I know for a fact that the academy test scores do not reflect his true abilities. However, as I said before, he's incredibly lazy and anything involving actual work is troublesome. He can use one of his clan's jutsus but I think he may be able to learn a few more if I can get some motivation in the kid. Asuma finished his report with a small sigh. These kids were going to take a lot of work to be whipped into shape and that meant more work for him. Hiruzen repressed a disappointed sigh. Even the few that passed were not ideal shinobi by any means. However, he motioned for Kurenai to begin her report with hopes that her team would be better. Kurenai nodded and began, already dashing the Hokage's hopes. My team passed but barely. Their goal was to track me down and capture me. They succeed but it was more luck than skill. Sasuke Uchiha is a one-man show. He doesn't work well with others and believes that he shouldn't even bother because they would only hold him back. He rushed me head-on, even though he currently has little to no tracking abilities, and left the other two behind and ignored them for most of the test. He's strong for a genin though, I'll give him that. I had stopped once and engaged him in a light taijutsu match and he seemed very adept his family style. He also managed to use fire release, grand fireball jutsu and was barely winded afterward. He'll make for a great heavy hitter for the team once we awaken his Sharingan and gets a few more jutsu under his belt. Sakura Haruno is very much like Ino without the ability to focus on the mission. She abandoned Shino to chase after Sasuke. Her skills are abysmal, despite having a high aptitude for chakra control and genjutsu. I took her out of commission with ease when I used a D-ranked genjutsu, she said with a sigh. She thought that Sakura would be at a much higher level than what she was since she was next in line for Kunoichi of the Year, but it seemed she only was because of her book smarts. Shino is antisocial but isn't a one-man show like Sasuke. He attempted to get them to work together in the beginning, but since Sasuke thought he was going to slow him down and Sakura following his lead, it met no success. Shino is calm and logical and already has ability as a tracker thanks to his bugs. As far as I know, he can't use any jutsu due to his bugs feeding off his chakra network, but he is definitely a long-ranged fighter. The only reason they passed was because of Shino. Sasuke realized that he couldn't track me on his own when I eluded him after our encounter, so he used Shino to track me and the two temporarily teamed up to capture me. Sakura was still unconscious. Kurenai finished. Like Asuma, she knew she was going to have her work cut out for her. Kakashi suppressed breaking into a full-blown eye smile as he began his report. My cute little genin were excellent. I almost had to go all out on the brats, he beamed, causing the other two jounin present to look at him like he was insane. You're not joking, Asuma observed in a surprised tone. No, I'm not. The little brats nearly killed me. He thought of a spiraling ball in the hand of a chakra hand aimed at his stomach and shuddered. A couple of times. Kurenai wasn't believing it. Kakashi was one of the strongest ninja of the village. He made genin at 5, shunin at 6, and jounin at 12. There was simply no way that 3 genin could possibly take him on and force him to go all out on them. Kakashi saw the disbelief written all over Kurenai's face and decided to explain further. As you all know, my test focuses on teamwork and they passed with flying colors. Kiba is hot-headed, defiant, and seems to have a habit of rushing in, but due to his pack instincts he's able to take orders. Though, he may just be following instructions because he has a crush on Hinata, he added thoughtfully. He didn't think that the crush would last too long though. Kurinai's eyebrow twitched at the mention of Hinata. Not only was she still miffed that she wasn't on her team, but she didn't view Kiba worthy of her sister. He's strong for a genin though, maybe high genin or low chunin in taijutsu, and can use several of his clan's techniques. He didn't really get to use them, but I hear he has an excellent nose that can be used for tracking. Hinata is soft-spoken and maybe a bit shy, but in combat she is calm, confident, and a tad ruthless. She turns several poor logs into pincushions with those sunbon of hers. She demonstrated the chakra control that the Hyuga are known for when she displayed water walking and his terrifying accuracy. She managed to hit my Tenketsu with her sunbon, and I'm guessing that she has a few more tricks up her sleeve. As a side note, she works incredibly well with Naruto. Naruto is a bit antagonistic to Kiba, but when he's with Hinata he's kind, compassionate, and loyal to a fault. He seems to push away everyone that's not Hinata, but I'm hoping that I can work on that and get him to open up to his fellow squad mates. What Kakashi really meant was, I hope he doesn't reject me from his life. He's defiantly not at genin level from what I saw. Kurinai suppressed a smug smile at that. She didn't particularly care for Naruto despite Hinata's pleas. It wasn't anything personal, but she saw him as an annoyance that would only bring Hinata down. She knew he wasn't the dead last he appeared to be, but she didn't put him any higher than the middle of the class. Hinata was the heiress of an important clan and more importantly her little sister. She only wanted the best for Hinata, and Naruto simply wasn't the best. He's much closer to Jounin level, and I haven't even seen a third of his tricks yet. He only really used one jutsu, and that was an improved version of the Rasengan, Kakashi stated. 3, 2, 1. What? What in the hell do you mean Naruto's at Jounin level? Kurinai practically yelled. I'm not saying that he's an SS rank shinobi or anything, but he's defiantly in the high B rank to high A rank, if I'm guessing correctly. Like I said, I haven't really seen any of his tricks, so he could have something special hidden in his metaphorical sleeve, Kakashi laminated. Hiruzen puffed on his pipe, pleased that there was at least one good team out of the bunch. He was even more so when he heard about Naruto. A variation of the Rasengan, you say? How did he improve it? Hiruzen asked. He knew Naruto hadn't added an element yet. The entire village would surely have noticed such a jutsu from the training grounds. Minato had theorized that the finished product of the Rasengan would be an S-rank jutsu easily. If he had used it, the entire village would have known. He turned it into a long-ranged attack, nearly hit me with it too. I should probably talk to him about that, he added as an afterthought. A jutsu like that should never be used on a comrade. Hiruzen seemed pleased by this. A long-range Rasengan was actually one of the variations that his late successor had attempted to make but hadn't been able to figure out. Asuma seemed thoughtful. He had been a Jounin far longer than Kurinai and had seen kids half Naruto's age be stronger than him, so he was much more open-minded. Was it really true though? Did Naruto really improve one of the Yandame's legendary techniques? If so, then Kakashi was right. Naruto was miles ahead of being a mere genin. You believe him, Asuma? Kurinai asked as she saw the thoughtful look on his face. However, before he had a chance to answer and risk pissing her off, Kakashi interrupted. Is it really so hard to believe? Kakashi asked rhetorically. Not only did he feel a bit insulted that she thought he was lying, but she was also doubting Naruto's skills. That bothered him. Yes. It is hard to believe. He's been the dead last since he joined the academy. I know he's been holding back, but saying that he's been holding back the skills of a Jounin is ludicrous, she responded and earned an annoyed one-eyed glare from Kakashi. Naruto has single-handedly pranked everyone in this village, myself included. He's made a fool out of ANBU, Jounin, Chunin, Genin, and civilian in this village. Are you really putting it past him to hold back his skills to end up on a team with Hinata? Kakashi asked in a slightly annoyed tone. Kurinai's eyebrow twitched again in annoyance. I won't believe it until I see it, she refuted flatly. Then how about our cute little genin have a spar? Team versus team, Kakashi offered, but Kurinai was already shaking her head no. Not team versus team. It doesn't matter if you're telling the truth about Naruto, but my team is a mess right now. He could be the dead last and you'd still probably win because of Hinata and Kiba. How about Genin versus Genin? That way we can accurately measure their skills against each other. She turned to Asuma. Do you want in? It could be good for Choji to spar, she asked. Asuma hesitated for a moment before agreeing. Sounds fine to me. Kurenai smirked. We'll do it at the end of the week. That way it gives both of us a little time to get a little training in and learn our Genin strengths. You're taking command of what was my idea, but sure, Kakashi said flippantly before turning to the Hokage. Will that be all, Hokage-sama? Hiruzen sighed and nodded, feeling a little ignored. That'll be all. You're dismissed. Flashback end. Kiba started to cheer after Kakashi told them the details of the match. Basically it would be like the ones they had in the academy, but this would be the first one as shinobi, so Kiba was incredibly excited. Hinata was also sporting a small grin. She was looking forward to seeing how far her fellow classmates had come since they joined the shinobi forces. Naruto's face was impassive, but on the inside he was looking forward to crushing a certain team since he no longer had to hold back. Calm down, Kiba. You'll wear yourself out, Naruto said as he rested his head on the table. His neck was beginning to cramp up from looking at the sky, so he was stretching it out. Kiba scoffed but sat down all the same. Moments later they were joined by their client. He was an old and weathered man and you could tell he had been a farmer for most of his life. Ah. You three did a great job, a bit odd with all the throwing paint brushes at each other and all, but it worked. Here's your pay, he said in a grandfatherly voice as he handed Kakashi a small stack of bills. Try not to spend it all in one place, he called out to them as he returned to his home a few yards away. Naruto eyed the bills and bit back a sigh. Unlike higher-ranked missions, the shinobi that completed the missions received payment directly from the client. They simply got paid so little that it wasn't worth the hassle of going through a middleman. That's barely enough for 5 bowls of ramen, he mentally whined. If he didn't start getting decent pay sometime soon, he'd either have to resort to stealing again or cannibalism. It could really go either way. He took his meager pay with grumbling but was surprised when he saw Hinata handed him her stack of bills. Maybe surprised wasn't the best word because this wasn't the first time she offered her pay to him. He gave her a good-natured grin. You keep it, Hinata-chan. I'm okay, he lied. Anyone who was considering cannibalism was defiantly not okay. However, Hinata didn't withdraw the bills but put a concerned yet stern look. You're not okay, Naruto-kun. I can hear your stomach grumbling. I'm a clan heiress. I don't need it nearly as much as you do, she said with a you're taking the money and you're going to like IT tone. Naruto looked down at the bills then back up at Hinata before sighing. Are you sure, Hinata-chan? I know you don't like using your clan's money to buy things, Naruto asked and got a smile and a nod in return. Naruto took the bills with an embarrassed blush as Hinata smiled at him. They didn't even notice Kiba watching the little exchange with great interest, a conflicted look upon his face. Later at Training Ground 7. Team 7 walked to their training ground and were surprised to see that the other 2 teams were already there, well, except for Kakashi. You're late. Ino roared, we've been waiting for 2 hours. Sakura yelled with her friend. Oh. Sorry. The road of life has many twists and turns, we just got lost I guess. Naruto looked immensely pleased with himself for beating Kakashi to the punch. As the 2 jounin present glared bloody murder at Kakashi, Kakashi gave Naruto a pat on the head. I'm an amazing sensei, he congratulated himself. After they all settled down, Asuma looked at his fellow jounin. So how are we going to do this, he asked. Kakashi seemed to think about it for a moment. I dunno, picking numbers? Let them choose their opponents, he asked himself aloud. He glanced down and saw that was the popular reaction among the group. Ino glared at Sakura, who surprisingly, was ignoring her. Kiba and Sasuke both shot a look over at Naruto, who was staring up at the clouds with Shikamaru, neither of them listening. Maybe we should let the rivals duke it out now so it won't cause problems down the road, Kakashi thought as he sent a questioning glance at his comrades. Asuma and Kurenai shared a look before nodding, both thinking along the same lines as Kakashi. Okay, here's how it'll be. Sakura vs. Ino. Hinata vs. Chuji. Shikamaru vs. Shino. Naruto vs. Kiba and Sasuke in a handicap match, Kakashi said, picking the match to prove his point that Naruto was way above genin level. Ino shot Sakura a cocky smirk. You ready to lose, she mocked, but to her annoyance Sakura ignored her and walked towards a small clearing that would act as the battlefield. Everyone else watched in idle curiosity. They expected some long drawn-out slug match that honestly gave Kunoichi a bad name. Asuma acted as the proctor of the match. He looked at both parties. Are you two ready? He asked and got nods in return. Begin, he said as he jumped back. Sakura started off by throwing a barrage of shuriken and kunai at her longtime rival. Ino was startled by the show of ruthlessness but managed to dodge in time without taking a hit. Is that all you got? Ino would have insulted further but the sounds of horrified screams cut her off. Ino whipped around and saw what had caused the screams. Ino could only gape as her mind slowly processed what she was seeing. Directly where she had dodged the barrage of shuriken and kunai was Sasuke, a bloodied and dying Sasuke. Ino suddenly took off running towards Sasuke and the group that surrounded him, all murmuring to each other about what they should do. No. No, this can't be happening. Ino yelled to her fallen love, crouching down and crying over his wounded form. Tears flowed out of her eyes as she tried to stop the bleeding but it was to no avail, her attention snapped up to those around her. Get help! Do something, she screamed and would have continued if it wasn't for Sasuke weakly reaching up and brushing away a tear. Ino, cough, have something, I have to tell you. He said weakly, spitting blood up with every word. Ino's eyes blurred with more tears as she leaned down for Sasuke was too weak to make himself clear. Her ear hovered over his mouth and she felt his hot breath tickle her ear as he said, when Ino pig. Sasuke said victoriously, sounding exactly like Sakura. It was at that moment the genjutsu broke and Ino realized she was kneeling over nothing and had Sakura's kunai at her throat. What? Ino asked in confusion. Sakura smirked at her. I placed you in a genjutsu that showed you your worst fear, she answered simply and removed her kunai as Asuma called her the victor of the match. Everyone except her team were dumbfounded at the incredibly quick match. It had been the exact opposite of what they had been expecting. Wow! Who would have thought Sakura would be able to win that quick? Kiba said excitedly. While he was a bit disappointed he didn't get to see a catfight between two pretty girls, he was impressed that Sakura had managed to beat Ino while barely lifting a finger. That was almost an instant win. When did Sakura get even more troublesome? Shikamaru wondered aloud. Sakura beamed happiness for she had just beaten her longtime rival and ran happily to her team, completely ignoring Ino who was both insulting her and saying that this wasn't over. Everyone's jaws nearly dropped as Sakura completely brushed past Sasuke and stopped in front of her sensei. How did I do, Kurenai-sensei, she asked, her tone much like a child showing a parent something they had done. Kurenai smiled at Sakura. Excellent, Sakura. You're finally owning up to your potential, she said with true pride in her voice. Kurenai was glad her talk with Sakura had sunken in. Flashback. Kurenai looked at her genin and bit back a frustrated sigh. The kids were great on paper but in truth they were two lone wolves and a fangirl. Not the best formula for a team. You can all go except for you Sakura, she said as she pinched the bridge of her nose. She was going to cut this fangirl habit of Sakura's off here and now. Sasuke and Shino both nodded before walking away. Once they were some distance away, Sakura looked up at her sensei with an uncertain expression. She didn't think she did anything bad enough to get held back so she asked, Did I do something wrong sensei, just to be sure? Sakura, why did you become a shinobi? Kurenai asked in a serious tone. The question threw Sakura off. Why I became a shinobi? Because my dad was one before the Kyuubi killed him. I wanted to honor him, I guess, she answered, unsureness in her tone plain as day. Kurenai nodded. She thought the girl had become a shinobi to impress Sasuke. That's a decent reason, but do you really think you're honoring him with the way you're acting? She demanded, shocking Sakura. With the way I'm acting? What are you talking about, sensei? Sakura asked, her tone taking an angry edge because she felt insulted. I'm talking about your fangirl bullshit, Sakura. Do you really think you're honoring your father completely ignoring your training to impress Sasuke with your figure? Do you think you honor your father by dieting and starving yourself when you should be eating twice as much as a civilian? Do you even know what it means to be a kunoichi? Kurenai was practically yelling at the end, but before Sakura retorted angrily, Kurenai sighed in extreme frustration. Sakura, do you know why there are only a third as many female ninja? Kurenai asked in a very serious tone. Kurenai was going to stop at nothing to change Sakura's actions. Sakura's angry retort dried up in her mouth. Because sexual-related crimes are more common against women than they are against men in the field, she recited from memory. It was common knowledge for all kunoichi to know. Kurenai nodded. That's exactly what the textbook says. Now, knowing that, why haven't you taken necessary precautions to ensure that doesn't happen to you? She asked, no anger in her voice. Just curiosity and disappointment. Sakura floundered for a moment before quickly finding her answer. Because Sasuke-kun will save me, she stated firmly, like it was a fact. Kurenai rose an eyebrow. Sasuke will save you, she asked and received a nod. 100% of the time? Another nod. Before Sakura could even react or put up a defense, Kurenai had firmly taken the nipple of her right breast, somehow finding it through her shirt and bra, in between the fingernails of her thumb and pointer finger and gave a savage pinch. Sakura screamed out in surprise more than pain. Sensei? What are you doing? Let me go, she yelled out trying to push away Kurenai's hand, but her grip was like iron and she was beginning to squeeze tighter. Kurenai didn't like the fact that she was having to do this. She took no pride nor pleasure from harming her student, but it was better a little pain than her ending up either dead or as a sex toy for an enemy ninja. Why am I doing this? The better question is, where is he? Kurenai said as she applied more pressure. Sakura had stopped struggling at this point. It seemed the harder she fought to get away, the harder her sensei pinched. She could only grit her teeth at the intense pain in her breast. What? Sakura asked, her voice thick with emotion as angry and confused tears sprung in her eyes. You said Sasuke would save you 100% of the time, so where is he? Kurenai asked again. Realization crashed on Sakura as Kurenai continued. He's not coming, Sakura, and you're helpless. If I was an enemy shinobi, I would be doing a lot more than pinching your nipple. If I was an enemy shinobi, I'd be violating you. If I was an enemy shinobi, I'd be passing you around to my friends as we mercilessly violated you in unimaginably horrifying ways. Kurenai said, steadily adding pressure to get her point across. Her nails were almost touching at this point and Sakura was barely containing a scream. Sakura was crying freely now. Not only because of the sharp pain in her breast, but she knew what Kurenai was about to say. And you would be completely at our mercy. Because you chose to diet and skip physical training, your body is weak. Because you decided to waste your time obling some boy, you didn't develop any sort of skill to defend yourself. Kurenai dropped her hand and Sakura dropped to her knees crying as she massaged her abused breast. Kurenai sighed sadly and gently rubbed Sakura's shoulder. Sakura. You have amazing potential. With your chakra control you could make an amazing medical ninja or you could be a genjutsu specialist, like I am, but don't waste all that talent so you can fail to impress some boy. He's not worth it, no boy is, Kurenai said in a reassuring tone, calming her upset student. She felt terrible for having to do that, but it was to protect her in the long run. Sakura was silent for a long time after her sobs had ceased. She felt like she had spat on her father's grave. How had she let her crush on Sasuke get in the way of her original goal? How had she veered so far off the path she had wanted to walk? She meant to be a shinobi first and try to impress Sasuke with her skills, but she knew that she didn't have any skills to speak of. She had blown off the entire physical aspect of being a shinobi so she could ogle Sasuke. It was half an hour later before Sakura had managed to calm herself. "Sensei, can you teach me genjutsu?" she asked, determined to make up for lost time, and if that meant sacrificing her crush for Sasuke then so be it. She was a shinobi first and she had to learn to protect herself, or what Kurenai just described would end up happening to her. Kurenai smiled, "Of course, be here an hour early for your first lesson." End flashback. As everyone congratulated Sakura on her win, even Sasuke gave a HN of approval. Hinata and Choji headed to the small field. As the two faced off, Hinata smiled lightly at Choji's obvious hesitance. "You don't have to be afraid of hurting me, Choji," she said in a reassuring tone. It didn't have much of an effect on Choji's nerves. "But I could though." "I don't want to hurt my friends," he stated, feeling conflicted. While Asuma-sensei had said that if you spar with your friends it would help them and yourself get stronger, but Choji had difficulty actually overcoming the entire hit your friends part. "Choji, you won't hurt me. I've been training with Naruto-kun a very long time and he's very strong. So don't hold back, okay," she said with a kind smile as she got in one of her stances. Choji hesitated and Asuma decided to offer a reward. "Choji, if you give this match your all, I'll buy you an all-you-can-eat buffet at your choice of restaurant." "Now, begin," he said as he jumped back. For a moment nothing happened, then surprisingly, Choji jumped into action. "Expansion jutsu," he yelled as he suddenly bloated into a large ball. Hinata immediately jumped back several feet to give her room to dodge what would happen next. "Human bullet tank," were the words that followed soon after as Choji began to spin before shooting off. Hinata jumped high into the air, Sunban in between each knuckle, and her dojutsu activated, to avoid Choji. Hinata threw her Sunban, thinking that he would be forced to stop spinning if he had a few Sunban sticking out of him, but, much to her surprise, Choji was spinning so fast that the needles just bounced off of him. Hinata's eyes narrowed as she gracefully fell back to earth, already thinking of a few different strategies. Choji pulled an impressive turn and charged Hinata again like a raging bull. However, Hinata was already prepared. Surprising everyone except for Naruto, she jumped forward and in midair turned around and began to throw several volleys of seemingly never-ending Sunban. "What's she doing? She's going to get crushed." Kiba yelled, worried about his crush. Everyone heard the sound of Naruto scoffing. "What the heck is your problem? Aren't you worried that Hinata-chan's going to get hurt?" Kiba demanded. Naruto sighed again. "Do you really have so little faith in Hinata-chan?" "Choji won't lay a finger on her," he said, pointing at the match, telling him to watch it. Hinata landed and turned back around mere moments before Choji was on his way to crush her, though he was trying to slow down. Smirking to herself, Hinata dodged to the left by taking 2 graceful steps. It didn't even look like she was dodging, more like she was dancing as a ballerina. The younger females felt a stab of jealousy at Hinata and Kiba commented, "Wow, Hinata-chan sure is flexible." With a perverted blush on the bridge of his nose. Even though he was only 12, he was going through puberty and that meant perverted thoughts about girls. The sound of cracking knuckles came from behind him and Kiba turned around and saw Naruto cracking his knuckles and giving his squad mate a glare that promised death. "Continue that line of thought and I'll neuter you, dog breath." Kiba gulped loudly before turning around while sweating bullets. Everyone chuckling at his expense. Choji raced by Hinata, though he was still trying to slow down, and directly towards the trap she had laid out. Even though Choji was spinning rapidly, he could still catch glimpses of the Sunban stick out of the ground and were aimed at him. While Choji could repel things like Sunban when he was spinning so fast that they just bounced off of him, he didn't think he would be able to avoid being impaled by the needles if he rolled over them. So, naturally, when he came too close he disabled his expansion jutsu and flew over the needles. Choji landed on his face, the bystanders winced on his behalf, and kept tumbling until he come to a complete stop almost 30 yards from where he had ceased the jutsu. "Oh wow," Chuji said, cupping his injured face as he struggled to stand due to the number of small injuries that now covered his body. "You okay, Chuji?" Asuma asked, feeling proud that he had taken the initiative but also thinking that Chuji should probably quit while he was ahead. "Yeah, I'm fine," Chuji said as he once again took up a fighting stance, thinking that he was going to eat Asuma-sensei broke after this match. "Do you wish to continue?" Hinata asked as she approached. Chuji thought about it for a moment then shook his head no. After spending years with Shikamaru, his smarts and foresight had kinda rubbed off on him. Chuji knew that the human bullet tank jutsu was really the only ace he had and Hinata had countered it. He only knew the academy jutsu other than his clans and those wouldn't help him so he had no choice but to quit since he had nothing else to throw at Hinata. Hinata smiled at him. "You did very well, Chuji. Now let me take care of your wounds," she said as she helped sit Chuji down and with a glowing green hand she began to go over Chuji's body and healed his minor wounds. Asuma was impressed as was Kakashi, though the latter expected that Hinata had practiced in medicine considering her words on the lake. So apparently Kakashi got an A-ranked genin and a medic nin, he thought in surprise but quickly turned sullen. Some guys just get all the luck, he thought, looking at his mess of a team. Granted, it had only been a week but Asuma knew it was going to take a lot of work to get his 3 in order. "Maybe I'll do whatever Kurinai did to straighten up Sakura. I'll ask her when this is over." After Hinata was declared the winner and healed Chuji, Shikamaru and Shino headed out to the field while Hinata and Chuji came back. "You did great, Hinata-chan. I knew you could do it," Kiba said with a broad smile but Hinata could see Naruto mouthing that Kiba was lying behind his back. "Thank you, Kiba," she said politely before taking a seat by Naruto who was more or less saying the same thing. Kiba watched the little display and felt jealousy surge in his chest. "I'll show the team was top dog around here," he thought as he turned to watch Shikamaru and Shino's match. Asuma looked between the two boys, one of which was yawning and the other standing there, waiting for the match to begin. Asuma sighed. He had a very good idea of how this was going to play out. "Begin," he said but didn't even bother to jump back. Only half a second later the words, "I forfeit," were heard from our favorite Nara. Everyone except the few that saw that coming, Asuma, Kakashi and Naruto, face-vaulted. "That lazy son of a..." Ino growled in frustration that her teammate could be so lazy that he would actually forfeit a match so he wouldn't have to fight but also the fact that he was also on her team. Sakura nodded in agreement with her friend. "That's it? They didn't even fight." Kiba roared angrily, he had been interested to see how that fight would turn out. They were both long-range fighters but he wanted to see which clan technique was the better one. "Wow, Asuma was right, that kid lives up to his clan's reputation," Kurinai commented to herself. "I didn't know Shikamaru was that lazy." Hinata mumbled to herself but her friend heard her. "It's not just because he's incredibly lazy that he quit," Naruto said, causing a few around him to give him puzzled looks. "Oh, you noticed too?" Kakashi said in a tone like he was sharing a secret. "Notice what, sensei?" Kiba asked, wondering just what in the heck they were talking about. Kakashi just pointed at Shikamaru, signaling that they should pay attention to what he had to say in his defense. Shikamaru sighed as he also saw the dirty look he was getting from Shino as well, even though most of his face was covered. "How troublesome, I would have lost in the end no matter what so why bother wasting all that time?" Shikamaru answered. Shino rose an eyebrow, while he fully understood the logic behind Shikamaru's actions, he wanted to hear his reasons. "Shino and I are both long-range fighters, however, our styles are very different. My shadow binding jutsu can hold Shino down, and maybe I could force him to surrender, though the odds of that are unlikely, but I cannot bind every single Kakechu inside of him. He could easily send out a swarm as I held him down, since they respond to his will, and suck me dry of chakra," Shikamaru laminated. Shino nodded. That had been his strategy since he found out who he would be fighting. Asuma sighed. "Victory goes to Shino," he announced, feeling embarrassed that every member of his team had lost. As Shino and Shikamaru rejoined He Group, everyone congratulated Shino on his win and laughed when Ino began to verbally tear Shikamaru a new one. He tried to explain his logic but it did not work, so he simply stood there listening to his teammates yelling while mumbling about troublesome blondes. However, two genin were ignoring them as they made their way to the center of the clearing alongside Naruto, who seemed completely fine with fighting two opponents. Both genin were thinking among the same lines, but for different reasons. I can't wait to crush Naruto team. Once I do, Hinata-chan will see he's a total loser and go out with me. Kiba thought excitedly, showing that he knew absolutely nothing about the opposite gender. Finally, I get to fight you again, Naruto. You better stop holding back so I can crush you and prove that I am superior, Sasuke thought as he remembered the first time Naruto had thrown a match. Flashback. Sasuke stood in the middle of the circle, the teachers finally letting him spar again. It had been almost a month since Naruto had broken his arm and the talk with his older brother. Many were surprised at the changes in the boy's behavior in such a short time. It was almost as if he was a different child. His arrogance had been cut down by a major degree. It was still there and occasionally surfaced, but those time were few. Sasuke smiled more, was kinder and even made a few friends. He no longer mocked others for being inferior, but he did pick on some kids, Naruto, Hinata, and Shino. Though, what he now made fun of them for was vastly different. He still maintained a bit of his bully nature, but that was a mix between his superiority complex as well as his inferiority complex. Naruto walked into the center of the ring, looking completely apathetic to what was going on, but on in the inside he was screaming at the injustice of what he was about to do. Iruka looked between the two children. Make the symbol showing that you wish to spar, he commanded, and the two children followed. This time I'll win. It's to protect Hinata-chan. I have to suck it up. Begin. Sasuke and Naruto meet in the middle in a clash of blows. However, Naruto seems sluggish compared to his previous fight with the Uchiha. To Naruto, it seemed like Sasuke was moving in slow motion. His movements were so predictable he honestly felt like he could win blindfolded. It was actually hard to lose. Naruto put up a sluggish arm to block a punch as he made eye contact with a puzzled and absolutely furious 6-year-old Sasuke. Sasuke could easily tell that Naruto was holding back, and that pissed him off. This was the kid that broke his arm with ease. Why was he suddenly slow? Naruto let a punch hit him in the chin and took a few steps back, his heel only a foot or two away from the line. Sasuke snarled as he let loose a number of punches and kicks. Naruto played the panicked fool and tumbled out of the ring and landed on his butt. That caused everyone to laugh except for Hinata, who was completely perplexed as to why Naruto let himself lose. Winner Sasuke Uchiha. Iruka called out, wondering the same as Hinata. Sasuke's fangirls went wild as they complimented how Sasuke had done and hurled insults at Naruto, saying the usual and how he had cheated last time they fought. Now make the harmony symbol, Iruka instructed. Naruto got up, feeling like a total fool but glad he had kept Hinata safe, and walked towards Sasuke while offering a hand with 2 fingers pointing out for him to shake. However, Sasuke had other plans. Sasuke slapped Naruto's hand away. What's your problem? Why did you let me win? Sasuke roared, feeling insulted. Naruto glared but did not respond. If he did open his mouth, a series of impressive profanities would make their way out of his mouth. Sasuke, that's enough. Make the harmony symbol, Iruka instructed again. Sasuke ground his teeth as he held out his hand and interlocked fingers with Naruto, who began to squeeze them as hard as he could. Sasuke winced but began to squeeze back, vowing to find out why Naruto held back. End flashback. The three faced off in the clearing, a gentle breeze rustling their hair. Sasuke turned to Kiba. Stay out of my way, mutt. This fight is between me and him, he said as he sent a glare to enforce it. Kiba scoffed as he set Akamaru down. As if, team. You're mine, he responded with an angry growl. Naruto sighed. It's really tough being this handsome. I have all the beautiful women and apparently men fighting over me, he said dramatically, enraging them both. Shut up, idiot. I'm not gay. Kiba roared, easily letting Naruto's words get to him. Sasuke, however, it's scared. I want to fight you one-on-one so I can prove that I'm stronger than you are, and so you can't use the excuse it was 2-on-1 when I crush you, he stated flatly. Naruto chuckled. Oh? You're going to crush me? You seem to be forgetting the fact you've won every fight we've had since we were kids because I allowed you to, right? He asked in a mocking tone. However, it wasn't like the friendly mocking tone he used with Kiba. No, this was the type of mocking you used on someone you loathed. It was filled with contempt and dripping with anger. Sasuke grunted. That was then. I'm going to win because I train harder than you do and that makes me stronger than you, Sasuke said in a matter-of-fact tone. Naruto barked a laugh. So you train harder than I do, eh? I thought training would be below your noble blood, he mocked, sneering at the word noble. Sasuke narrowed his eyes, wanting to go off on Naruto for insulting his clan but chose to answer his question instead. No. Before Itachi went insane, he was right that hard work pays off more than talent, and I work harder than anyone to achieve my ambition. That's why you won't lay a single scratch. Sasuke answered, but he was cut off when in a blast of wind and a flash of movement, Sasuke's shirt had a large cut from the sleeve down and his shorts were the same, just below a belt loop. Sasuke's eyes went wide as he saw his now ruined clothes. Kiba gasped a few holy shits before Sasuke noticed that there was a continuous shallow cut from his shoulder to his knee that only broke off from the belt loop. The cut wasn't even deep enough to draw more than a drop of blood, but maybe that's what made it so intimidating. Sorry about that, you left yourself so wide open and I couldn't resist. You were saying something about a scratch? Naruto said in flat tone. There was no mocking nor teasing in it. Naruto was just giving Sasuke a peek for what he was in for. Sasuke looked up from his clothes and saw Naruto holding a wooden sword that looked identical to a real katana minus the guard. Though he did not know that the wooden sword was made out of a special kind of wood that could conduct chakra, which was how Naruto cut Sasuke's clothes. Wow, I didn't even see him move. Shoji exclaimed, clearly impressed with what Naruto just did. He hurt Sasuke-kun. Ino said weakly, but on the inside she was practically drooling at the thought of only a thin scrap of cloth prevented her true love from being naked. Sakura agreed with her friend but did not share her inner thoughts. Shikamaru didn't say anything, but he was paying far more attention to the match. Shino was doing the same. That speed, I blinked and I missed it. Speed alone doesn't make him Jounin level, but the match hasn't even started yet. Kurenai thought in shock. Hinata smiled lightly, glad that Naruto was getting to confront Sasuke, something he's wanted to do for years, and happy that everyone was impressed with her crush's speed. She couldn't wait to see their reactions when they saw what Naruto was really capable of. Asuma blinked a few times. Damn, the kid's fast, he thought before he turned to an enraged Sasuke. Do you want to change shorts before the match begins? Yours are hanging by a thread, he asked and received a glare for his efforts. Sighing, he yelled, begin, before jumping several yards back. Sasuke immediately shot off, intending to make Naruto pay in full for wrecking his clothes. However, Naruto dodged each punch by a hair with an eat shit grin on his face. Is this really all you have, Sasuke? I'm not impressed, Naruto mocked, his grin widening as he saw his words getting under Sasuke's skin. Sasuke roared as his punches and kicks sped up, determined to hit Naruto if it was the very last thing he did, but Naruto dodged every single one with ease. He waited just long enough for Sasuke to think he had managed to get him, but at the very last millisecond he would shift his body ever so slightly and Sasuke's attack would miss. It was embarrassing and infuriating. Sasuke just grunted before smirking. Suga! Kiba yelled as he became a human drill and aimed himself at Naruto's back. However, to everyone's shock, Naruto planted his feet and as the Kiba drill neared him, he caught Kiba. Kiba was spinning so rapidly that it tore right through Naruto's glove as well as his skin, but he held on, his face not even hinting that he was even in pain. Holy shit! Kurenai said in a breathless tone. She had done a little research on Kiba since she wanted him on her original team, so she knew just how devastating his Tsuga was. A glancing blow and your skin was torn, but a direct hit and your skin was shredded. Her doubts about what Kakashi said vanished in an instant. She knew for a fact that she would be a wreck after taking one of those, let alone stopping it with her bare hand. Like Kurenai, the genin were beyond impressed with Naruto, maybe except for Hinata, for she knew his strength. Shikamaru and Shino were both reassessing Naruto. Shino now thought Naruto was even more of an enigma, and Shikamaru now thought Naruto was far more troublesome than he was originally. Ino and Sakura both openly gaped. They didn't know the specifics like Kurenai, but they had seen Kiba use it enough to know that it was very powerful. Hinata and Kakashi were both surprised, Kakashi being more so than Hinata, since she knew just how reckless Naruto was, that he chose to stop the attack with his hand. However, they both knew that the Hokage had given him permission to stop holding back. Maybe this was just him testing his new freedoms. "Damn, that stung more than I thought it would," Naruto commented as he tossed Kiba away. He looked down at his hand and wasn't too surprised to see bone in a few places that had more contact with Kiba's rapidly spinning head. Sasuke just stared at Naruto in shock. He was completely and utterly dumbfounded by what he had just seen. Kiba had used his Suga and Getsuga on him before during some of the later academy spars, so he knew from experience what that human drill felt like. So that raised the question, how the fuck did he just stop it with one hand? Kiba landed a few feet away on his feet, looking just as shocked as Sasuke. "What the heck are you?" Kiba demanded. Not even his mother could toss away his Tsuga like that. Naruto didn't answer but focused his chakra to his wounded hand, muscle and skin quickly covering the exposed bone. It wasn't medical ninjutsu, his chakra control was far too poor for that, because Naruto couldn't heal other people. It was more like a Kekei Genkai. The more chakra he focused, the faster the healing, though there were limits. "Kiba, stay out of this. I'm crushing Sasuke right now. I don't want my teammate getting harmed because you were in the way," Naruto said in a serious tone that almost sent shivers down Kiba's spine. It wasn't just his tone that, not that he'd admit it, frightened Kiba. It was his eyes. They held no remorse. Naruto meant what he said, he was going to crush Sasuke. Kiba truly wondered what Sasuke did to piss Naruto off so. Naruto didn't wait to see Kiba's answer as he turned to face a recovering Sasuke. Naruto bounced his mock sword lightly on his shoulder. "Team, it's nothing personal, while that's a total lie, it's completely personal. Anyway, I hope you're ready to meet the rest of your clan," Naruto said in sickeningly sweet tone. It was the tone of a predator deciding it was going to have a little fun with its prey before eating it whole. Naruto suddenly vanished, only to reappear before he delivered a devastating backhand to Sasuke's jaw. Sasuke went flying in the direction Naruto sent him in, too stunned to get his feet beneath him, and landed on his face almost a dozen yards away. He should be glad that I held back with that slap. If he were a civilian, his neck would have broken, Naruto thought as he lazily walked over to Sasuke, who was getting back up. Because shinobi use chakra, their bones, muscles, tendons, and all that other medical junk got strengthened to an amazing degree. That's how if you threw a civilian through a wall he'd be a bloody mess, but if you threw a shinobi through a wall they'd brush themselves off. "One slap and you're already done?" Naruto asked as he stopped a few feet away from Sasuke. His face was already beginning to swell where Naruto had hit him. Feeling enraged by the comment, Sasuke threw another punch, but it was knocked away with a light flick of Naruto's mock sword-wielding hand before it stabbed him in the stomach. It didn't pierce his skin, but it hurt like hell. Smacking the wooden blade away, Sasuke began to rain blows down on Naruto. He was hell-bent on landing at least one clean hit on the blonde. However, each punch or kick was smacked away with a strike from Naruto's weapon. Sasuke threw a left hook, only for the blade to strike his elbow. He lashed out with a jab, only for the wooden sword to snap his wrist. He lashed out with a kick, only to miss and take a strike to his kneecap. He could already feel the bruises forming as his anger and embarrassment deepened. Why couldn't he hit him? He trained for hours on end so he could avenge his clan, but he couldn't even touch Naruto. He was so sure that he trained harder than the blonde, harder than any genin in most jounin, but he now knew he was wrong. Naruto was in a completely different league, and judging by the mocking grin on his face, Sasuke was guessing that this wasn't even close to Naruto's true strength. "Don't you have any other tricks up your sleeve?" Naruto asked as he deftly ducked past a punch before delivering a rapid succession of attacks on Sasuke's ribs and back. Sasuke growled as he ceased attacking and put some distance between them before flying through the hand signs for one of his family's signature jutsu. Kurina's eye went wide as she made to stop Sasuke before this got out of hand, but she was stopped by a hand on the shoulder. She looked back in surprise at Kakashi, who was shaking his head. "Don't stop them. Naruto especially needs to get this out of his system," Kakashi said. "He's trying to kill your student, Kakashi." Kurenai informed in a ridiculous voice, bewildered why Kakashi himself wasn't jumping in. Kakashi shook his head. "Just watch and don't interfere," he commanded in a lazy tone. Slowly relaxing, she turned her attention back to the match. "Fire release, Grand Fireball Jutsu," he called out, his flames enveloping where Naruto stood. Sasuke kept the flames up for an impressive 30 seconds before he cancelled the jutsu to avoid exhaustion. As he gained control of his breath, he peered into the lingering smoke, trying to see if he got Naruto. It was almost a minute later when the smoke finally cleared, and much to his surprise, Naruto was gone. That fireball wasn't anywhere near hot enough to reduce him to ash. He thought in confusion. "Watcha lookin' at team," said Naruto as he used Sasuke's shoulder as a prop to keep him up. Sasuke instantly whipped out a kunai and tried to slash Naruto, but his attempt only managed to make it to the halfway mark as Naruto grabbed his wrist. "I think I played with you enough, Uchiha scum," he said as he gave Sasuke's wrist a squeeze and twist, causing it to snap loudly. Sasuke screamed out in pain, but that was silenced by a knee to the gut. As Sasuke involuntarily bent over, Naruto grabbed his hair, releasing the broken wrist, and yanked hard. "Oh no you don't, Sasuke. I still have 7 years of bullshit I have to pay you back for," Naruto said, his bokken dropping to the ground as he smashed his now empty fist into Sasuke's body and arms. Kurenai went to go stop this. It was as clear as day that Naruto was the victor of this match, but once again Kakashi stopped her. "Don't interfere," he said as he watched Naruto beat the last loyal Uchiha. "Kakashi, you can't be serious? Sasuke's getting pummeled. We have to step in before he dies," Kurenai demanded. "Kurenai Nizan, Naruto-kun won't kill Sasuke," Hinata said, answering for her sensei. Kurenai whipped around at her little sister, feeling a bit betrayed that she didn't back her. "What do you mean? Aren't you watching the match?" she asked rhetorically as she gestured to the what was now only a one-sided beating. "She means that Naruto is just playing with the team. If he wanted him dead, then he would be," Kiba said as he sat down. Kakashi rose an eyebrow. "Did you surrender?" "Doesn't seem like you," he commented. Kiba sighed. "Naruto took on my strongest technique and it did absolutely nothing to him. I might be a little slow sometimes, but I'm not an idiot. If I tried to keep fighting, Naruto would have put me out of commission so he could take on the team," he said with a sigh. "Seems like his plan to woo Hinata wouldn't come into fruition." Hinata nodded. "Naruto-kun won't kill Sasuke," she stated adamantly. Kurenai sent a nervous glance over at Naruto pummeling Sasuke, just in time to see him punch Sasuke so hard in the stomach that Sasuke's shirt ripped away and he flew several feet. "No. I'm sorry, but I can't in good conscience let this go on," she said before disappearing in a shunshin. Kakashi sighed. "I hope she knows that Naruto's not going to be the one upset." Naruto apathetically walked over to the bruised and battered Uchiha. "That's enough, Naruto," commanded Kurenai from behind Naruto. He looked behind him and saw Hinata's older sister figure glaring at him. He rose an eyebrow while still gripping the tattered remnants of Sasuke's shirt. He was about to respond, but Sasuke coughed up blood and barely rolled onto his side. Naruto sighed as he tossed the ruined shirt on top of his beaten opponent. "I guess you're right. This wasn't even fun," he said in a tired tone as he began to walk away. Despite what people may say about how he ruthlessly beat Sasuke down, it wasn't revenge. It was retribution. Sasuke deserved every cut, bruise, and broken bone that Naruto just dealt him. Heck, he deserved a hell of a lot more, but Naruto couldn't stomach much more. Naruto began to walk back to the others and past Kurenai, who was giving him her best "you should feel terrible about what you just did" look when they heard a weak voice stop them. "Stop, I'm not done with you yet," Sasuke said as he struggled to stand up. Naruto sighed and stopped as Kurenai rushed to her student's side. "Sasuke. Stay down, you dash," Kurenai began and placed a hand on Sasuke's shoulder to keep him from rising, but it was smacked away. "Don't touch me. I have to prove that the Uchiha Dashi was cut off by Naruto kicking him in the face. Stop being delusional. You can't win, so stay down. This isn't some movie where you can win by sheer force of will. If you get back up, if you threaten me or Hinata again, I will end you. I am so sick of your arrogance and pride. You are not special, Sasuke. You are not a prodigy like your brother, and the odds against you killing your brother are astronomical. At the rate you're advancing, it will be 1,000 years before you could manage to lay a finger on Itachi. That's the truth. And do you know why you'll never kill him?" Naruto demanded. There was silence. "Because you're too fucking arrogant and prideful to accept help. You say you train hard and that makes you think you don't need anyone else, but you are so wrong that you should get an award. You can only get so far on your own team, and you've already gotten there. If you truly want to kill Itachi, and I imagine you do, admit that you can't do it on your own, because the cold, hard truth is that you can't. If you continue as you are now, even if you do find Itachi, the only thing you'll be able to do is bleed on him." Naruto finished angrily before letting out a sigh and tucking his hands in his pockets, while his mock sword disappeared in a puff of smoke. "I'm done with this," he said before walking off in the direction of town, Hinata following behind him to make sure he was okay. Sasuke began to think about what Naruto had said and struggled to his feet, ignoring Kurenai's pleas for him to stay down. "I'm going to the hospital," he said, ignoring everyone, and began to limp in the general direction of Konoha's hospital. Ino saw this and quickly began to try to help the fallen Uchiha along, but he ignored her attempts. Before long, all the genin had dispersed until only the jounin remained. "So, still think I was lying?" Kakashi asked as he read his favorite novel. Kurenai sighed. "No. But this turned into a mess, didn't it?" she asked, and received 2 grunts in reply. Kurenai's attention snapped to Asuma. "Why didn't you stop the match earlier?" she demanded, causing Asuma to sigh. "There are 3 types of fights: fights to protect a life, fights to take a life, and fights to protect your pride. The last one is the type you do not interfere with," he said as he took out a cigarette. Kurenai's brow furrowed in confusion and gestured for Asuma to explain further. Taking a deep drag. Sasuke was fighting to for his clan's pride, and Naruto was fighting to regain lost pride with the Uchiha incident. Kurenai winced at the mention of Naruto's stay with the Uchiha clan. She always seemed to forget about it every time our favorite blonde was brought up. "I didn't want to jump in because not only would it be a major insult against their pride, but it's better that they deal with it now than when they're both high-ranking shinobi, though Naruto was a bit stronger than I anticipated," he admitted with a sigh. She paused, then turned to Kakashi, who already started answering her question before she could even ask it. "Yes, that's why I told you not to interfere. Naruto wouldn't kill Sasuke, not even the Hokage would be able to protect Naruto from the shitstorm that would get kicked up if he murdered the last loyal Uchiha. They, more Naruto than Sasuke, needed to vent their anger. It seems Naruto got most of his out, but since the fight was so one-sided, Sasuke's anger may either fester or vanish with that little talk," Kakashi mused as he flipped the page. "So it doesn't matter that I saved my student from additional pain," Kurenai said with a nod. Not necessarily. You may have made Sasuke's anger fester because you thought he needed to be saved. So we may end up with a much more violent and antisocial Sasuke than we already have," Kakashi said thoughtfully, before clarifying to Kurenai. "I guess it's a guy thing." Kurenai's shoulders dropped. She was desperately wishing that Naruto's words penetrated Sasuke's thick skull. She didn't know if she could handle 2 completely antisocial students. Kakashi gave her an eye smile. "Let's hope for the best, shall we?" Naruto breathed in slowly, trying to calm his racing heart. Sweat dripped from his brow and body with the movement, joining in with the puddle at his feet. Blood ran freely from dozens of wounds that coated his body, blood mixed with his sweat causing the puddle to turn a reddish pink. However, Naruto could not see this for he was blindfolded. He could not hear, for he also had plugs that blocked all sound. He let out a breath just as calmly, focusing his other senses to make up for his sight and hearing, mainly his senses of touch. Seconds went by as before he felt it, a slight rumble coming from a few feet to his left. Shifting his body ever so slightly, he dodged the projectile that raced towards him. He returned to his original position, only having to suddenly dodge two more in rapid succession. Minutes went by as he repeated this pattern, feeling the slight vibrations before having to dodge. Many he did, but he also was hit by more than a few. Naruto sighed in relief as he felt a sharp vibration on his wrist and ripped off his blindfold and the earplugs. Opening his eyes, he winced at the sudden light. He was in a pure white room, other than the bloodstains, with around 100 circular holes at regular intervals. Naruto looked down at his paint-covered body and counted the stains that more or less covered his body. 38 direct hits, 22 heavy marks, and the rest were light scrapes. Not bad considering he had been dodging paint-covered balls for an hour and a half. Naruto was training his reaction time as well as his other senses. The room held 100 balls, each covered in a different color paint, so he could tell how bad he was hit. That would shoot out. If Naruto dodged, then they would go back into another hole to be reused, and if he didn't, well, that was self-explanatory. It would continue to shoot the rubber balls until it ran out, and that would be the end of the exercise. Naruto's current best time was 1 hour and 55 minutes. Naruto walked towards the door as he pulled off his ruined training clothes and dropped them onto the floor, revealing his spandex black shorts and a skin-tight silver shirt. He made a few clones to clean up the room, all of them grumbling as they did so, before he left the room. He whistled a small tune as he plunged into darkness. He had found the secret base around 2 years ago. It was a large labyrinth of underground tunnels with rooms for whatever he needed. He had to remold several rooms for training purposes, but the majority he left as the original owner had. Orochimaru. The base was one of his many underground hideouts that he had scattered throughout the elemental nations, and the one Naruto had claimed was the one he had stayed in just before he fled Konoha. As said before, Naruto remolded several rooms. Mainly those that weren't used for terrible experiments. The rest he either sealed off or left as they were. He remodeled a couple dozen rooms for training, like the one he was just in, and they practiced a wide variety of skills. He made a library that held enough books to rival Konoha's library. The kitchen was well equipped, but he was currently lacking on food due to his appetite and inability to secure money to sate him. He gathered books for his personal library in a number of different ways. Some he would steal. If he was ever on a job, he would keep an eye out on any good books, ninja-related or not. Others he copied from Konoha's library. For the last 2 years, he would send clones to go copy books and scrolls, and when the sky went dark, he would occasionally sneak in and copy a jutsu or two from the higher-ranked sections. However, he left the science room alone. While it could be a moral conundrum that Naruto would leave the wretched place intact, he did and would often use it to experiment as well. As sick as it was, Orochimaru was a brilliant scientist and his labs were well equipped. Naruto, not knowing where he could even buy half of the things in the science room, left it as it was and used it, but in very different ways. While Orochimaru would experiment on humans and tried to gain immortality and bloodlines, Naruto focused on helping shinobi in their daily lives. He made food pills that didn't have horrible side effects and ration bars that gave you a day's worth of nutrition. He made pills that would help you stay awake along with many other useful things for their profession. None of them were currently available in open markets. He was still testing their long-term effects along with the effect of continued use. However, once those things tested thoroughly, he would pitch them to Gigi. Although, there was another reason for his reluctance. The age-old Hokage would wonder where and how he made these wonder drugs. When he pitched them, the trail very well could lead to here. This was where Naruto had spent last year in total seclusion. He trained here and developed his skills in secret. Only Hinata knew where this place was and maybe Gigi. When he had found it, it had been cleaned out of chemicals and bodies that Orochimaru used. So Naruto was sure that the old Hokage knew about its existence but didn't have the manpower to hold it down. Naruto concluded that because of the Kyuubi attack, which wiped out a third of their forces, and Orochimaru's defection, which cost Konoha one of their strongest and a number of his pawns, Gigi put the base at the bottom of his list. He didn't have the time nor the manpower to hold the place, so he simply boarded it off and seemed to have forgotten about it. Naruto had stumbled on the place by chance. Hinata had a sparring match to attend, so he was strolling through the woods when he noticed the genjutsu. At first he thought his eyes were simply playing tricks on him, but after a rather large burst of chakra, he dispelled the genjutsu. When he entered the long sealed-off hideout, he had been greeted with the stench of stale air and decay. After exploring the base, 11-year-old Naruto decided to claim it for his own. He cleaned everything, with the help of many shadow clones, and through trial and error he fixed up many rooms that he planned on using. The task had taken several months, almost an entire year, however that was because of one room in particular. Naruto was about to enter said room. Naruto reached a dead end and looked at the door that blocked his path. Unlike the others that lined the poorly lit hallways, this one was a huge double door made out of the solidest of oak wood. On the surface were hundreds of intricate seals that gave it the appearance of a gateway to another realm. However, a seal master could tell by one look at them that wasn't what the seals were for. They were meant to keep something in. Naruto bit his thumb before wiping a bit of blood in a small circle above the handle. Naruto's blood rested for a moment before the seal kicked on and glowed an ominous blue before being absorbed into the seal, causing the door to open. Light emerged from the crack between the doors and grew as the doors swung open. Naruto stepped into the light and the doors closed behind him. Naruto yet again winced at the bright lighting in the room, making a mental note to do something about that later, as the doors clicked shut behind him. As his eyes adjusted to the bright lighting, he examined the room. As mentioned before, the room was very bright. Light seemed to pour from the walls instead of from one source. The room was also very large. It had a dome ceiling that peaked at 4 stories tall. However, the room's brightness was dimmed by hundreds of thousands of intricate seals that lapped over each other on the dome. There were chakra suppression seal, reinforcing seals, contaminate seals, regeneration seals, anti-damaging seals, seals to prevent chakra from being felt outside the room, seals that blocked all sound from the room, and so on and so forth. Naruto was rather proud of this room. It had taken him about 9 months to finish it. That was including the thousands of clones that worked with him. The room was so sturdy and secluded that you could release the Kyuubi in here and the outside world would never know. Ironically, that had been the purpose of the room. Naruto looked down at the center of the room and saw his own creation that had taken over a month to make. He created a shadow clone using the Kyuubi's foul chakra. At first he didn't have a real purpose for the clone. He just wanted to see what would happen. Then he realized that the clone was far different than its cousins, so he used it for training purposes. The clone had grayish-white skin, giving him a sickly appearance. Its blonde hair darkened to a black at the tips, something Naruto found cool, and had the Kyuubi's red eyes. He also had a tail, something Naruto found really cool, however it wasn't like a fox tail but closer to that of a lizard. The clone's personality left much to be desired. Naruto's normal clones were basically complete copies of him, same face, same height, same personality. That was because he used his chakra to create them. However, when he used the Kyuubi's chakra, the clone was twisted. It called for blood, violence, power, and destruction. This was why Naruto not only had it sealed into this room but held it pinned at the center with dozens of chakra-enforced chains covered with suppression seals. The clone looked up and let out a low, threatening growl at Naruto's grinning face. "Yo, Mema. You up for a spar?" Naruto asked the named clone. While Naruto felt like he could get away with calling his clones by what they were, Mema had his own personality, therefore he gave him a name. Mema gave a sharp nod as his eyes narrowed with determination. With the same cocky grin, Naruto placed a hand on Mema's seal on his stomach and began pumping Kurama's chakra into him. Kurama had agreed to this method of training for a few reasons. First of all, it was a chance to escape from Naruto's seal if he fucked up. Secondly, Naruto got stronger. While Kurama was still far from calling Naruto a friend, he didn't want Naruto to die. Naruto had treated him with the most kindness since his father thousands of years ago. He still desperately wanted his freedom, but he didn't want Naruto to die to get it. However, if there was no other way and the opportunity presented itself, Kurama would jump at the chance, even at the cost of Naruto's life. Naruto's grin widened as he drew more of Kurama's chakra than normal. How about we kick this up a notch, Mema? Three Tails is getting pretty boring, he said as Mema smiled back at him, his smile filled with malice and hate. Kakashi hummed to himself as he read his favorite book. He was on his way to a cafe where he was supposed to meet up with Asuma and Kurinai. They had decided to meet up once a week, if missions allow, to discuss their team's progress. Well, that was the excuse Asuma used when he pitched the idea to them. Asuma just wanted some time to woo Kurinai. Since she kept shooting him down for drinks, he had to resort to underhanded methods. Since Kakashi was never less than 2 hours late for anything that wasn't mandatory, he had that much time to talk to Kurinai uninterrupted. So, naturally, Kakashi decided that he'd only be about 30 minutes late. He had to amuse himself somehow, and if it had to be messing with Asuma's love life, then that'll what it'd be. Kakashi walked through the front door of the cafe, causing the little bell on the handle to jingle. The sound caused Asuma to look up from his position, and Kakashi could practically see his hopes drop. Fufu, seems like he was making a bit of progress with Kurinai, Kakashi thought to himself as he mentally patted himself on the back for a job well done. Yo, he greeted casually as he slid into the seat next to Asuma. The two jounin returned the greeting before they got down to business. So, I heard your team finally got the required amount of D-ranked missions, Kurinai started off, her statement directed at Kakashi. He nodded as he flipped the page. Yep, they finished them off a couple of days ago. I'm just looking for a suitable C-ranked mission to get their feet wet, Kakashi said as he sent Kurinai an eye smile. Both Kurinai and Asuma nodded in understanding. When Kakashi said suitable mission, that meant he was looking for one for the genin to get their first kill. So Kakashi was looking for a mission that had a high risk for bandits but little chance of anything higher. I know you're their sensei, but it hasn't even been a month, isn't it a little soon? Kurinai asked as she drew her eyebrows together in concern. If a genin got their first kill too soon and they couldn't handle it, it could end their career then and there. Most jounin senseis waited a usual of 4 to 6 months for the first kill. Kakashi nodded, understanding Kurinai's concerns. Maybe, but they're tough. The only one I have any concerns about is Hinata, so I'll be sure to notify you when it happens, he said as he sent Kurinai another eye smile. Kurinai nodded her thanks before asking Asuma about any new developments on his team. There have Ino asked me to start training the team seriously, and from what Inoichi told me, she's learning more clan techniques as well. I guess being defeated by Sakura really got to her. Asuma said as he sipped his coffee. And your other two? Kurinai inquired. Asuma seemed to think about it. Shikamaru still seems as unmotivated as ever, but Chuji seems to be less inclined to hold back. Though, once he thinks he's going to hurt Ino or Shikamaru, he tries to stop himself, he explained. While that was a good trait, and if you thought you were going to harm a friend, you should stop, but Chuji stopped too soon. Ideally, you would stop last second so your partner got the fullest effect of the training. Chuji, however, stopped nearly 10 seconds in advance, giving Shikamaru and Ino plenty of time to counterattack. Kurinai nodded as she drank her tea. It seemed everyone else's teams were progressing. How are your cute genin? Kakashi asked as he flipped his page and giggled perversely. After beating down the tick mark that threatened to consume her head, she let out a huge, disappointed sigh. I take it that things aren't going well, Asuma deducted as he urged her to continue. Sakura's progressing excellently. While she's still far behind in the physical aspects of being a shinobi, her progress in genjutsu is impressive. She even started to dabble in medical ninjutsu after she saw Hinata. I'm not sure how much progress she's made, but by judging from the smile I get every time I ask, I'd say she's coming close to mastering the basics. Kurenai said with no small amount of pride in her voice. She had every reason to be as well. There weren't many who could boast that they turned a problem child into a young shinobi with a bright future. Asuma coughed into his hand as red went into his cheeks as he remembered what Kurenai told him what she did to straighten up Sakura. A small smile tugged on Kurenai's lips as she saw Asuma's embarrassment before she continued, Shino is progressing steadily. His tracking skills are progressing, but he seems more focused on increasing the size of his hive as well as his variety of insects. He's still as stoic as ever, but he made a joke the other day, well, more of a dry wit comment, but it's progress. So I'm guessing that long sigh in the beginning was because of Sasuke? Kakashi deduced. Kurenai nodded and Asuma said, so I'm guessing that Naruto's words didn't get through to him? Kurenai sipped her tea to gather her thoughts. They did, well, they sorta did, she answered and quickly continued when she saw the confusion in Asuma and Kakashi's eyes. He's had some pretty big mood swings lately. Sometimes it's like he wants to participate in the group, like asking Sakura how she's progressing in Genjutsu or asking Shino about his bugs. But, Asuma supplied. But at other times, he's even more antisocial than he was. He snaps at anyone that comes close to him and making conversation is impossible. It's completely destroying any teamwork between him and his teammates. Kurenai sighed. I really don't know what to do, she admitted as she propped her head up by her hands. While she did feel slightly ashamed that she couldn't handle her own genin, she knew better than not to ask for help. Kakashi made a humming noise, sounding like he knew what to do. Kurenai looked at him with a hopeful expression, but that soon disappeared when Kakashi gave her an eye smile and said, I've got nothing. Her eyes turned to Asuma, but he shrugged. You really got a tough break, even more so when it's your first genin team, he said in an apologetic tone. Kurenai sighed again as she drank from her tea. She hadn't expected much, but she couldn't help but feel disappointed. Maybe I'll take him to the Yamanakas for an evaluation sometime, she muttered before her eyes shot back up to Kakashi. How's Naruto been since the fight, she asked, wondering if he was acting out as well. Naruto was a bit out of it a few days after the match, but Hinata and I talked to him. He's fine now, Kakashi answered as he flipped a page. Naruto was not fine. Truth be told, he was doing the opposite of fine. Wounds covered his body, a huge 4-claw gash rendered his left arm useless, his hair was soaked through with blood and there wasn't a single spot on his body that didn't ache. Naruto glared at the 4-tailed clone before him. He could practically feel Mema's psychotic grin. If Naruto was being honest with himself, he'd admit he wasn't ready for 4 tails. He had been able to keep up, maybe even was a bit stronger than 3 tails. However, he hadn't been ready for the sheer jump in power that the 4th tail provided. He had been puzzled when Mema's flesh began to peel off, but he continued at Mema's insistence. Then he had been forced to jump back when a black ball enveloped Naruto's evil clone. Naruto spat out a mouthful of blood, along with a molar, as he made a half-ram sign, the signal that would end the spar. He just wasn't ready. Until he could completely defeat 3 tails, he wasn't ready. However, Mema had other ideas. Throwing back his head, bubbles of chakra began to come out of his body. Naruto paused for a moment, curious as to what Mema was doing. He had never seen anything like this before. What in the hell is this? He thought as he watched the chakra begin to concentrate above Mema's mouth, turning into an ominous-looking ball. Naruto took a step back. Every shinobi instinct he had was screaming that the odd jutsu was bad news. Then he took another when Mema swallowed it. And another when he bloated into comical size. When the blast erupted from Mema's mouth, Naruto activated the chakra suppression seals. Chains wrapped around Mema, steam erupting from contact as they sucked the vile chakra. The seals on the walls glowed white as they began to suck up power from the Bijudama. Naruto now realized what it was. However, he had activated the seals too late. The massive chakra still racing at him with terrifying speeds and power. Oh shit! Naruto managed to think as he brought up his arm and a Rasengan spiraled into existence a second before the chakra bomb wiped him from the earth. Kiba sighed as he walked into his kitchen and he grabbed a bowl. Kiba was bored out of his mind. He and Akamaru didn't have any missions since yesterday. Kakashi-sensei said he was looking for a badass one for them, so they were off for today. He grabbed the cereal from the cabinet his sister had hidden it in and poured himself a bowl. Hannah would murder him if she ever found out, but she was on a mission for the next week and by that time she wouldn't remember how much was left. He looked down when he heard a soft whine and grabbed another bowl for his partner. He sighed loudly as he slowly ate the cereal, admitting that it tasted a hell of a lot better than rice. He was in deep thought about his team. "I'm not as strong as them," he admitted. While it was a major insult to his pride, he knew it was true. Not being the strong one was a new concept for Kiba. Ever since the academy, he had always been one of the strongest. While he did fall off in academics, he was always in the top 2 for physical stuff. Sasuke being the one who held on to the top rank most of the time. Kiba didn't like it, he decided. He didn't like being the one his team had to look out for. In every mock mission, he had always been the weakest link. Naruto surpassed him in strength, ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, speed, and strategy. Hinata-chan surpassed him in tracking, accuracy, dodging, medical stuff and strategy. He didn't have anything to contribute. His only strong points were his taijutsu and his tracking skills, and both Naruto and Hinata-chan surpassed him in both. Kiba sighed again as he petted the top of Akamaru's head. "What are we going to do, buddy?" he asked himself, but was answered by his mother. "Get beaten to a pulp by your sister?" Some said with a feral grin as she entered the kitchen. Much to her surprise, she wasn't answered with an indignant claim that he could beat his sister any day of the week. Looking over her shoulder, she saw Kiba leaning on the table, playing with the remainders of his cereal. Sum's eyes widened for a moment. Kiba was never depressed or thought about anything for more than 5 seconds. Then it clicked in her mind what Kiba was thinking about. So it finally happened? Little Kiba-chan finally realized that he's not the biggest fish in the sea. Sum thought as she grabbed a glass and filled it with water. She had been wondering when this was going to happen. It happened to most Inuzukas. Sum would be the first to admit that her clan was arrogant. Not the kind of arrogance that the Uchiha and Hyuga had, but more of a hot-headed, stubborn arrogance. So, most Inuzukas had a great realization that the world's a lot bigger than they thought it was. Those that didn't were dead. "Hey, Mom?" Kiba said in a soft tone. "Am I weak?" he asked as he put his bowl full of milk on the ground for Akamaru. Sum made a humming sound before saying, "Well, you're strong for a genin, but in the grand scheme of things, yeah, you're pretty weak." Her answer didn't seem to help Kiba because he slumped onto the table while mumbling, "Naruto and Hinata are genin." Sum grinned after making an awing noise. "So that's what brought this about," she said as she took a seat across from Kiba. "They're just so much stronger than me. I'm just weighing the team down at this point," Kiba muttered unhappily before he froze as a thought hit him. "Mom, could you train me?" he asked with sudden enthusiasm. His mother seemed to think about it, drawing it out her answer at Kiba's expense. "Why should I?" she asked with a feral grin. Kiba paled before he sighed in reluctance. "I'll clean the kennels for a week," he said with much less enthusiasm. "A month?" Kiba's mother shot back. Kiba's jaw dropped. "No way. I'm not going to clean the stupid kennels for a month," he argued. "Then I'm not going to train you," Sum said simply as she drained her water and went to put it in the sink, giving Kiba time to think about her offer. She grinned when she heard Kiba's head slam the table and a mumbled, "Fine." Naruto ground his teeth in pain as he looked down at the remainders of his arm. His skin had been torn to shreds, he was missing 3 fingers and he was positive that it was broken in at least 4 places. His diagnosis was interrupted when he heard Menma's mad cackling. "How's your arm?" he asked with a vindictive grin. "I hope it hurts." Naruto scoffed, masking the pain he felt, and grinned. "Menma, you know I've had way worse than this," he said as steam erupted from the claw marks on his shoulder. He needed both his arms to function first before he focused on his numerous other wounds. Menma laughed. "Yeah, I know, those memories are the only thing that keep me entertained in between spars," he said as a pleased look passed over his face. He knew Naruto was lying. His arm hurt and he liked the fact that he hurt him. Naruto teased as he tested his left arm. It functioned but barely. The flesh wounds were still there, but the bones had started to mend back together or regrow. I'm not sure why I let you keep your ability to talk. All you ever talk about is how you don't like me. I already more or less know what you're going to say before you even say it, Naruto muttered as he started towards the exit, his stomach growling dangerously. Don't walk away from me as if you won this fight, Uzumaki. This was my victory and it will be the first of many. One day soon I will take the power away from you and you will be the one in this room. Mema yelled as Naruto just waved by without looking back. Naruto walked back through the door, its ceiling shut behind him. That fucking hurts, Naruto hissed as he grabbed his arm, urging the wounds to heal faster, but it was no better than a crawl. That was because Naruto's body was running out of resources to heal his wounds. Kurama couldn't create something from nothing. He needed protein, calcium, potassium, liquids, and so on to repair Naruto's body. Due to Naruto struggling to get a full meal, his body was slowly running out of its natural stores. Naruto let go of his arm as he walked to the kitchen, praying that there was something for him to eat. Konohamaru panted for breath. Boss's training plan was extreme. He had never been so tired in his entire life. His body ached with fatigue and his muscles burned. However, despite his young body's pleas, he wouldn't give up. Not until Hanabi did first. Hanabi was in no better condition than Konohamaru. Her body had long passed her limits and the only thing that kept her moving was her pride as a Hyuga. She and her training partner had been following their sensei's instructions to the letter. They followed the training scroll, and most days he would oversee them. They had almost gotten to the halfway point of what the scroll said. She and Konohamaru had been running around the village, both too stubborn to take a break, for about 5 hours. Their ANBU guards followed the children, amused and amazed by the fact they were still going. The kids were barely in the academy, but they were already working harder than most genin. They felt respect for not only the children but for Naruto as well, because Kat remembered when Naruto was the one running around the village. He managed to find 2 brats that are just as stubborn as he is. Kami help the world if he ever gets a genin team, she thought as she followed the children as they bickered. Pant, you should, pant, give up, loser. Konohamaru said as he struggled for the lead. He managed to pass her for seconds before Hanabi to speed up to retake the lead. As if, pant, monkey boy. You're, pant, the one that should give up, she yelled as she pumped her legs harder, desperately trying to increase the gap between Konohamaru. Konohamaru grunted in exertion as he pushed himself harder. He had vowed at the beginning that he'd win. He couldn't become Hokage if he couldn't even beat a girl. The 2 children were neck and neck as they approached the finish line, a fallen oak tree. They both pushed themselves harder with each step, both trying to pull ahead of the other. Their feet hit the ground with muffled thumps and their breaths were short and ragged. Both crossed the finish line at the same time, perfectly in sync. Ha! I, pant, beat you. Konohamaru said as he wobbled to a stop. Hanabi disagreed. Liar. Pant, I won and, pant, you know it. Oh yeah? How about another lap, pant, around the village to prove who's, pant, the real winner here? He boasted, though he was silently praying to whatever kami was listening for Hanabi to turn down the challenge. Hanabi glared at the boy as she struggled to regain her breath. She opened her mouth to respond, telling Monkey Boy that he was on, but the words never left her mouth because Kat had knocked her out. It was a swift blow to the back of the neck and she did the same with Konohamaru. While Kat knew it was probably a very bad idea to knock out a clan heir, much less 2 of them, she did it for their own good. She had seen the same with Naruto in the past. These 2 would have kept on going until they collapsed or died. She looked over at Lizard, who gave her a nod. It was for the best. They didn't know when to quit, he said as he picked up Hanabi and disappeared with a shunshin. He was Hanabi's guard while Kat was Konohamaru's. Kat sighed as she picked the boy up and she too vanished with a shunshin. Naruto walked into the kitchen, his face an impassive mask to the pain he felt. While it did hurt more than just a bit, he had experienced far worse when he was a child. Unlike the previous rooms, the kitchen wasn't overly bright. Fluorescent bulbs hung overhead, bathing the room in soft light. Naruto beelined for the refrigerator, praying for it to be stocked to the brim with food, but he was disappointed when he opened the doors. They were empty, not even a morsel or a crumb left behind. Naruto sighed in disappointment, but he hadn't been surprised. If memory served correct, then he had cleaned out the refrigerator a week ago. Closing the doors, he walked over to the pantries and opened the doors much like he had with the refrigerator. Like the refrigerator, he was disappointed, there was no food. Naruto groaned as he thumped his head against the now shut doors, his stomach growled in agreement and his arm pulsed with pain. Why is there never any food? He muttered to himself. Why did I promise Hinata-chan that I won't steal anymore? He asked himself as he walked over to the cabinets. He couldn't remember going through them anytime recently, so they were his last hope. He combed through the cabinets. Most were empty save for dust bunnies, but the last one had a box in it. With trembling hands, Naruto picked up the box and blew away the dust before opening it. Inside was one of Naruto's own creations, nutrition bars. However, Naruto noticed the G1 written on the top in his own handwriting. The G1 meant that this had been the first generation of the nutrition bars. He was currently working on G6. Naruto took a deep breath as he picked up one of the bars. It was covered by a wrapper, and let it out in a long sigh. The reason he had continued working on the nutrition bars was not because of their effectiveness. They were actually complete in that area, but what he was working on was the taste. Naruto could honestly say that he'd rather eat dirt over the newest generation. Bracing himself, he used a bit of sharpened wind chakra to cut open the wrapper and took a massive bite. He resisted the urge to spit the vile-tasting object out of his mouth and pushed himself to chew before swallowing. It's gross, he whispered as he finished off the first bar, his wounds already picking up their healing speed. It's so gross, he whispered again as he reached for another. Cat Sunshine just outside of the Hokage's door. She knocked twice before she was given the okay to enter. Hiruzen's eyes drew together with concern as he saw his grandson being carried underneath the arm of one of his most trusted ANBU, but quickly relaxed when he saw Kat's posture. She was too relaxed for him to be hurt, and even if he was, she'd bring him to the hospital before him. I take it my grandson has been training rather hard, the old Hokage asked, a smile playing on his lips as Kat laid the boy on the couch. He and the Hyuga heir, I had to knock them out where they would have pushed themselves to collapsing or death, Kat informed and drew a chuckle from the Hokage. Naruto's influence, I take it? The Hokage asked. Kat nodded. Hi, Hokage-sama. I haven't seen anyone this determined since him. He seems to have a knack for bringing out people's rivalries and motivations. Kat replied as she stood over Konohamaru. That got a laugh from the old man. Yes, he does seem rather talented in teaching, he muttered before looking over at Kat. How did he do? Incredibly well, considering he's in the academy. Due to the rivalry between he and the Hyuga heir, neither took a break nor complained and pushed themselves harder. They made admirable progress because of this. I estimate that both he and the Hyuga heir will be eligible for early graduation by the end of the year, Kat reported. Hiruzen's eyebrows rose. He hadn't been expecting that. Konohamaru had only been in the academy for a year. If he was already nearing genin level, then he really needed to thank Naruto. Though, he does slack off when it comes to academics. He claims he won't need them when he's Hokage, Kat added. Hiruzen nodded. After all, what child liked to study? He was about to respond, but he was interrupted by a soft groan. Konohamaru groaned as he rubbed his eyes, his body still aching from his workout. He looked around at his surroundings and saw his grandpa smiling down at him. Kat had vanished without a trace. Welcome to the world of the living, Kono-chan, Hiruzen said. I hope you enjoyed your nap. Konohamaru blinked once, then twice, before he jumped up. How did I get here? I just beat the weirdo in a race. He cried in outrage. How was he supposed to rub his victory in her face if she wasn't here? You collapsed from exhaustion and my ANBU brought you here, Hiruzen responded smoothly. The boy didn't have to know he had been knocked out for his own good. Konohamaru nodded slowly before his eyes darted over to the clock and his jaw dropped when it did. It's 7 o'clock, he yelled as he jumped down from the couch. The Hokage looked down at him with amusement and puzzlement. Is there something special about the time? He asked. Konohamaru nodded. Yeah, it's time for Kenjutsu training. Boss said that if I manage to get to the halfway point of the exercises then I can start learning. Konohamaru said with pride. The halfway point? He thought with some surprise. Cat told me that he almost pushed himself to collapsing. Just what are you having my grandson doing, Naruto-kun? Hiruzen silently asked. All of a sudden Konohamaru's face fell. But I don't want to learn kenjutsu. Well, I do, but not as badly as bojutsu, he said with a fierce look in his eyes. Hiruzen smiled in amusement. Bojutsu, eh? Yeah. Boss made me read books and some of them were about you. You totally kicked butt in the wars with your staff. Please teach me, Ji-chan. Konohamaru begged. That I did, grandson, but, Hiruzen said looking a bit disappointed, I don't have time to teach you. I have my duties as Hokage to attend to, he said, feeling greatly saddened that he couldn't teach his grandson his specialty. Konohamaru cocked his head to the left. What about the shadow clones boss uses? He uses them to do the things he doesn't want to do, he said in an innocent tone. Hiruzen paused for a moment as his world slowly crumbled around him. Shadow clones, he repeated, almost as if the word were foreign to him. He opened his mouth to say something but the words would not come. Shadow clones, he repeated again before it all began to sink in. Then he remembered something, a distant memory that he had all but forgotten due to the sands of time. He had found the Nidaime grinning with joy as he entered the Hokage's office, an office that would soon be his. This surprised him because how reserved the Nidaime was, and Hiruzen had never even seen the man grin, much less the full-blown smile. Sensei? He had asked in uncertainty. The Nidaime noticed his student for the first time and quickly tamed his smile. Hiruzen, I didn't notice you there, he said in a stoic tone. Hiruzen tensed. His sensei was always alert, no matter how safe or relaxed. Either this man was a very poor spy or the Nidaime was incredibly happy for some reason. Sensei, what was all that about? Why were you smiling? He asked. The Nidaime's lips twitched. I've created a new jutsu called the Shadow Clone Jutsu. It's a solid construct of chakra that transfers all memories and experiences to the user. Though it is a very high-cost technique, the user must evenly split his chakra with the clone. So it will be difficult to use in mass numbers. He explained. Hiruzen's eyes widened. That's amazing, sensei. What is it used for? The Nidaime hesitated. Our recon, he muttered. Sensei, you lied to me. Hiruzen thought in outrage. If he had known the true purpose of the shadow clone technique, then so many things would be different. He wouldn't have to stay cooped in this stuffy room for an ungodly number of hours every day. He could get back into training and take walks around the village. Hiruzen looked down at Konohamaru and the boy took a nervous step back. The look in Gigi's eyes made him nervous. Suddenly the old man embraced the boy hard enough that his back popped. Oh, Konohamaru, you're the best grandson a man could ask for. The age-old Hokage cried as he held Konohamaru tighter. The boy gasped in pain and for air. Gigi. Ji. Let me go. I can't breathe. Konohamaru yelled as he struggled to get out of the old man's incredibly tight grip. However, Hiruzen could not hear him and just squeezed tighter. Hinata hummed to herself as she sat in her Zen garden. It was a little section cut off from the rest of the Hyuga compound. It was originally her mother's, but after her death, Hinata took care of it. It was now her pride and joy. There was a little waterfall that led into a small pond that was inhabited by koi fish. There was fine white sand in her pointer to draw shapes. There were flowers and herbs of all kinds growing. Lastly, there was her bench that Naruto had placed seals on to make it so comfortable that she didn't want to stand. She took a sip of her tea and let out a content sigh as she watched the bamboo stalks fill up with water before tipping over and releasing their contents into the pond. Today was one of her few relaxed days. She didn't have training, missions, or spars planned, so she had the day to herself. She had asked Naruto to spend the day with her, but he said he already had a date with Menma scheduled. Hinata repressed a small shudder when she thought of the twisted clone. It was frightening how it, as Naruto insisted, could look so much like his creator but be so cruel and downright evil. She knew Naruto was playing a dangerous game when he sparred with Menma, but she had faith in Naruto and his seals. If Naruto said that Menma wouldn't be getting out, then he wouldn't get out. Hinata shook the thoughts of Menma out of her head. No, I'm going to enjoy my off day. I won't let anything ruin it, she thought adamantly. The life of a shinobi was a chaotic one, so who knew when she would get another off day like this? However, as if to prove her words false, a swirl of leaves appeared in her garden. When they dissipated, Hinata saw Hanabi's guard lizard carrying Hanabi in his arms. In an instant, Hinata was on her feet, demanding to know if her sister was all right. Lizard nodded as he presented Hanabi to Hinata to carry. She's fine. She pushed herself until she collapsed. I don't think she'll be waking up anytime soon, he informed. Normally he'd go through the entrance or directly to the clan head, but Hinata had insisted that he come to her if it was related to her training. Hinata nodded as she took Hanabi. The moment Hanabi was in her arms, Lizard disappeared with another swirl of leaves. Hinata smiled down at Hanabi. You worked yourself really hard, I'm proud of you, Hanabi, she complimented as she walked back over to her bench. Normally she'd take Hanabi to her bed, but in many ways, her bench surpassed luxury beds. Hinata laid Hanabi down so her head was resting on her lap. Hinata tucked Hanabi's sleek hair behind her ear, revealing more of her pale face. The sleeping girl mumbled in her sleep, something to do with a monkey boy, before she snored softly. Hinata smiled warmly. It was moments like these Hinata could imagine what kind of bond she and Hanabi could have if it were not for their father. She liked to imagine that they would be the type of sisters that discussed everything and nothing. She had a similar bond with Kurinai, but she wanted to have the same bond with her only blood sister. Today really couldn't be any better, she thought as she began humming again. Naruto grinned as he watched the small display. He had come over after healing himself as much as he could to take Hinata up on her offer to hang out, but he changed his mind when he saw the two sisters. Naruto leaned off the wall he was hiding behind and tucked his hands into his pockets as he headed home to change his bandages on his arm. He hadn't been able to fully heal the skin and some of the muscle damage, but he figured it wouldn't cause any problems. However, unknown to Naruto, he was very wrong.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.